Let me get started the recording. Okay, there we are. So the meeting is going to proceed in several sections. First of all, we're going to talk about what is Agora, what do we do, how we do it, and I'm going to allow for questions after each section, because otherwise, if we wait till the end, probably it's going to be too much and details will be lost in the process. So what is Agora? Agora is an educational, public interest, non-profit foundation. What does that mean? The first thing, educational. Our services are mainly related to education of individuals. We have several side effects, like community projects. I'll talk about that later as part of the leadership learning process, but our main goal is educational. We don't directly carry out projects, I don't know, in sanitation or health or helping the poor. That is all done indirectly. We are a not-for-profit, meaning that we're a charity. As you're probably aware, for most of you that have spoken to the different people in the different groups, we don't charge any fees. If your clubs are open to the public, and we don't reap any benefits from the whole thing we are running. We don't either sell anything. It's a foundation, and as such, it has a legal status that carries some legal connotations in the European Union. It's a legally registered foundation. We are registered as such. It's a public interest foundation, which means that we fit the criteria that the European Union defines for things that are good to have in society, foundations that are good. We are not a foundation devoted to improving someone's, I don't know, well-being or things like that. There are some foundations like that. And we are officially recognized as a foundation, as a charity by some of the biggest companies that are providing us free services like Google, Microsoft, Atlassian, and things like that. Now, what's our goal? Our mission statement can be summarized in this short sentence, which is, we empower you to become a brilliant communicator and a confident leader who will actively build a better world. And I read it because I want to emphasize that there isn't a single superficial word there. It's all about empowering you, our members, to become communicators and leaders, but not just any kind of communicators and any kind of leaders. This is not some, I don't know, bullshit training program, online random material. No, it's quite intensive, I can tell you. It's fun. It requires a lot of practice, which is the way you will learn. And we expect you to actively participate in building a better world. We won't tell you how or what to do. That's one of the things you will see. It's all up to you. But as part of the leadership process, we do expect you to apply the skills that you're learning to make your community and your environment better. And that's why I mentioned before that although we don't directly get involved into community projects, indirectly through our members and our leaders, we do. I would like to stop a bit about to talk a bit about the logo, just so that you're aware what it means. We have Agora is a Greek word. It comes from the ancient Greece, which the ancient agoras were basically a meeting place, a place in the ancient cities of Greece where all the cultural life, the commercial life, the political life took place. And ancient Greece is recognized currently as one of the ancient birthplaces of democracy. So that's why we picked that particular country. So we have three columns in the left that represent the stability of our organization and our heritage. We have the three lines in the right that represent an auditorium, an old amphitheater. And we have an orator in the middle that is addressing the public. And the flames represent the passion that I hope you will all experience. Now, let's move forward. Agora is currently present in over 70 countries. We have about 100 clubs. Here are some of the pictures. I really can't post all of them. Apologies for those that didn't make it. There are many more in the social groups. You have here some pictures from Indonesia, from Portugal, from Madrid, from Singapore, from Nepal, from South Africa, from Poland, from Jordan, from Japan. So this is not a. It's quite a big thing, and I think one of the best things that you will enjoy, and that differs from just trying to learn on your own, is the benefits of having a huge worldwide community. And that is one of the things that we offer, in fact. So, where to find us? Our main presence currently is on the web and on Facebook, as you have probably noticed. We have two main websites. One is the, let's say, landing page, www.agoraspeakers.org. And then we have the documentation portal, which is wiki.agoraspeakers.org. On Facebook, we have one main international group, which is probably the one that almost all of you joined. Well, all of you, because otherwise you won't be here. The event is a private one for the group. And then we have per country groups, which are usually Agora speakers. The name of the country. Could be Ghana, could be Morocco, could be Tanzania, Kenya, Portugal, whatever. However, I just want to anticipate that although our main focus right now is on Facebook and our main communication channels are on Facebook, we're going to be moving away from that because many people have privacy concerns, quite correct, I would say. Many people are wary of Facebook and in general of social networks, so we're going to have deploy quite soon our own system. You could join through Facebook in that system. You could register with a different email, completely new. But we're going to be shifting the focus from Facebook to our proprietary system. And of course, we have presence in the other media like Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. So you can reach us anywhere there. As I mentioned, we don't charge anything, which means that usually we're relatively poor in terms of financial resources, which on one hand is good because, well, that allows us to have free clubs. On the other is bad because everything takes a lot more time, and because we cannot provide some services like telephone service or direct calls. We cannot provide that because we don't have the resources. All the communication is online. So our main educational program is based on developing 4 particular skills, although I would say that 3 are accessory to the main skill that people learn here, which are public speaking, the ability to communicate your ideas, to transmit a message, to move the audience to action, to defend your viewpoints as well in a way that is not, let's say, emotionally uncontrolled. Assertive, yes, but not emotional. Critical thinking, which is the ability to discern what is correct, what is true from what is pure manipulation. And unfortunately, we live in a world where critical thinking is becoming of paramount importance. Every day we see references to fake news. Every day we see posts on Facebook, WhatsApp, where not, people forwarding, retweeting things that are blatantly wrong. And of course, before, in the era of email only, that didn't hurt too much because the email chains like, I'm going to sell you the San Francisco Bridge, or I've inherited a huge fortune from my uncle, please send me some money so that we can so that I can give you a share. That didn't hurt too much. But nowadays, with the social networks, those posts propagate virally, and they can really hurt the society. They can hurt you financially, and they can hurt you, the society as a whole, if you make the wrong choices, especially in societies where you vote for outcomes. In critical thinking, we will not be telling you what is correct and what is not correct. That's not the goal. Agora doesn't have. I'll talk about the core characteristics of the foundation later, but Agora doesn't have a particular agenda. We will only be teaching you how to tell true truth from falsehood, how to examine every communication that we receive critically to see whether what is being claimed there is correct, is true, is not true, whether there are the alternative sources, things like that, and to identify some particular ways of manipulating it. Okay, I know that annotating is fun, but please don't do it. Then we have debating. Debating, which is basically a skill that allows you to defend your viewpoints, to advance arguments for achieving something. And one thing we value a lot in the debating system that we have, which is unique, is that we strive to achieve consensus and points of common ground. In the traditional debate systems that exist out there, usually the debates, especially in contests, end with someone winning over the other part. We value a lot more the ability to find common ground and compromises. And we value a lot the ability to debate non-emotionally, like rationally. And all of those skills are very important for the final one, which is leadership. The ability to actually execute something, a goal that you have. Again, we're not going to tell you what your goals should be. That's up to you. Your goals could be becoming president of a country. Your goals could be improving your environment. Your goals could be, I don't know, animal rights. Your goals could be your own professional development. That's fine. We are only here to teach you the skills to achieve that, not what you should be achieving. One important thing that I would like to emphasize is that all our education is practical, meaning that this is not some kind of theoretical class. You will have to practice all of this.
Okay.
Now, what is the learning cycle? How Agora teaches as such? Well, that's a bit of a misrepresentation because Agora doesn't teach as such. I mean, there are no teachers in the clubs, there are no experts. We may have the occasional training session like this one, but we all start from equal ground. Of course, some members are more experienced than others, and that's always super welcome, sharing their experiences. But Agora is mainly a peer learning process. What does that mean? First, you're going to be learning from the educational materials that we have. You will see that they are divided in projects. I'll speak about that later. And then for each project, you will prepare something. That something could be a speech, could be an actual project outside of the club. There are a variety of projects that can be done. Then you will practice that, and that practice happens within the clubs. If that is a speech, for example, then you will present your speech in front of the club. If that is a community project, then you will have to present your progress in front of the club. And the most important part, which actually is the one that helps you learn and advance, is the feedback that you will get from your peers. For everything that you do in Agora, you will get feedback, both from specialized evaluators, as we call them, and from the general audience in the club in general. We will have occasionally training sessions, and clubs, of course, are free to invite people that are recognized for their experience in some area. In fact, for example, I'm aware that in Spain, people, the clubs in Madrid usually invite experts or accomplished authors or speakers in the fields of storytelling or financials or things like that. Those are very welcome. And in fact, one of the reasons why we don't have any fees, centrally, I mean, is that we do really want to encourage clubs to spend all their resources on the education of members. So anything you can get from the funds that your club has control over, and you can spend on inviting experts or acquiring materials for the club, that's very welcome. So what is the interaction that is happening in Agora? First of all, your main interaction your two main interactions, I would say, are going to be with the clubs, with your local club, and with our training program. Although, when you travel, or if you just want to, you can reach out to any other Agora club in the world. And in fact, we recently had a case in which the leader of one of the clubs here in Madrid went to Nepal, and there she met there the local Agora participants. Quite interesting. Another two factors that will help you through the learning program is the worldwide Agora community, in the sense that being a worldwide organization, we offer a platform, an online platform in which you can exchange ideas, you can ask for advice, you can ask for feedback on any speech. You're not constrained to only your club. You can record your speech or just write it and post it on the forums and just ask for advice. Or if you have, I don't know, particular problems in some of the projects, how do I do vocal variety? How do I start a community project? I have this problem with the local authority. How can I tackle it? You can always ask for advice. And there is another figure there's another participant, or let's say persona in Agora, which are the mentors. The mentors are more experienced members, either within your club or in the Agora community, that help you initially as you enter Agora. They are usually there to guide you through the initial, let's say, 5-6 projects, and it's a more, let's say, close relationship than the general Agora community of the clubs. They answer your questions, they meet with you. If they are local mentors, you can arrange meetings with them, etc. So, are there any questions about what Agora is so far before we move into the dynamics of club meetings?
Hi, this is Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Alexander, I need to know how we can register a club.
Sorry?
How we can register a club. Registration of the club with Agora Speakers International.
Yeah, I will talk about that later in the last section about club creation.
Right. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Are you listening?
Yes.
Hello.
I'm Zia.
Hi, Zia.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay. First of all, I want to know that you said that the club registered by European Union, right?
The foundation is registered by the European Union. Clubs are independent from the foundation.
Okay. So if already you know that I'm trying to establish a club in Bangladesh.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is needed any license or any registration from Bangladesh, so will be the that means money founder name or anything will do this. Is myself or any others?
Okay. In general, you should research whether it's really necessary to have a legal registration, because as far as clubs are concerned, as long as no money is involved, you're just a group of people that are meeting to talk and to practice something. Unless you get involved into funding and like applying for permits for some community projects or things like that, I think, but that's something that each club has to research locally. I think that it's relatively safe to say that you won't be needing a license. Now, if you do need the license, unfortunately, we go back to the point about the fees. We cannot, we don't have the resources, and we don't have the knowledge, even if we had the resources, to help in the legal registration of every single country. We can provide with, I don't know, official documents of what Agora is, I don't know, official certificates of our own legal registration, like we do for the attendance of the convention if they need visa support. But that's as far as we can go. In general, the usual approach would be, once there are enough clubs in a country, they could raise funds for registering a legal entity there that could serve as an umbrella for all the clubs. That will be my recommendation, if at all necessary.
Okay, now in my country, it's necessary to get the license from the government because it's a one kind of non-profit organization. So in my country, if anyone or anyone establish a club like the social club, so need the license from the government or need to registration from the government. We can say it's a that means social welfare ministry in our country. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to if we make it a regular basis work, that means social work, we need to collect a license or registration from the government. Otherwise, it is difficult to take the initiative for social activities. So the fund, okay, we'll raise the fund, no problem. But who will the money body of the committee? That means we already established a committee. So is there any international person represent in the committee or anything else?
I'm not sure what you mean by an international person in the committee.
That means like this, we need that means it's a Agora International is an international club, right? So maybe I'll communicate very soon with our social welfare ministry. So if they need that, we are the recommended, or we are the authorized local club in Bangladesh. We need a clearance from you. So is it possible to get the recommendation?
Yeah, sure. You can reach out directly to me for that. I have power of attorney in the foundation, so
okay.
That won't be a problem.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. More than welcome. More questions about what we are?
Yes, I want to ask a question. Like, for example, if I am in Cameroon and I just realized that a club just came into my country, and I wish to know if actually, if I want to create a club now, how will I be able to get to the people or to the international people in my country? Are there any?
Yeah, there are quite a few, and let me insist. I'll talk about club creation specifically later on. This is just about who we are as far as the foundation and what we do.
Okay.
Just if you don't get your answer when I talk about the club creation process, then please remind me.
Okay.
Okay, then let's move forward. And I would like to explain a bit about the club meetings, because that's the core activity of clubs, obviously. I mean, clubs can engage also in social activities and parties and social gatherings, but the main purpose of the clubs is educational, and we should, by the way, never lose sight of that. So club meetings are the core activity. Club meetings start always with the meeting leader. The meeting leader is in charge of what's happening in a meeting. He basically starts the meeting, closes the meeting, and introduces all the participants. The meeting leader, in fact, the meeting leader is what we call a meeting role. Roles can be taken by anyone. The meeting leader is not like always the same person, hopefully, because everyone should be, let's say, free or allowed to experience the opportunity of leading a club meeting. And the meeting leader doesn't necessarily have any, let's say, official role in the club other than that particular meeting. Now, the meeting itself proceeds in different sections. We will see later that there are lots of sections that you can include in your club. Some sections are longer, some are shorter, some sections are required. They have to be present in clubs. some sections are optional. You can also create your own sections if you see that the activity is educational and related to the goals of Agora. So there is no limit in that. One particular characteristic is that each section has a role responsible for that particular section, for leading the section, and that there are two common roles. One is the role of the timer, because we don't want to spend like 1 hour listening to someone on a runaway speech, or we don't want to have meetings that last for 5 hours. So one of the more important roles, although usually it's not considered as such, is the timer. The timer makes sure that all the sections proceed within the allocated time for them. And in fact, you will see in the documentation that he signals the people leading those sections when the time is about to end. And he actually kicks them out in a friendly way when the time allotted is way over the limit. And he provides a report as well. And then we have the grammarian, because one of the main goals of, or one of the main attributes of a good public speaker is that he has a very confident, concise, to the point language, without hesitations, without doubts, without artificial cliches, filler words, and things like that. And of course, well, grammatically correct, hopefully. So the grammarian basically is the person in charge of verifying that the people speaking comply with all that. And then each section has its own evaluator, and they evaluate using different criteria. So for example, if you are giving a speech or a particular project, you will be evaluated according to that, to the objectives of that speech. If you're speaking impromptu, if you're doing improvisational speaking, then there are a set of different criteria. If you're doing community projects, again, there are a set of different criteria. All of these criteria are as part of the educational program, and there are evaluation cards for all of them. One thing I would like to insist in here is that the evaluation sounds, well, maybe the name of the evaluator role sounds very harsh, but the evaluator is not someone that judges your performance or that tells you what to do or what you did wrong and things like that. The evaluation here in Agora is merely peer feedback, meaning that he's just a member of the club. Sometimes he can be less experienced than you. That is merely providing his opinion about how well you did. And one thing I would like to address, we have a whole section in our materials about how to do proper evaluations and how to do, above all, constructive evaluations. Because at the end of the day, the feedback that you give should be helping the speaker or the leader to improve. And in order to help him to improve, your feedback needs to be actionable, constructive. So you need to provide specific suggestions on how he can do better, according to you. Usually there is this fear, especially from less experienced members, that, well, how am I going to evaluate or provide feedback to someone that is much more experienced than I am? So for example, I'm a member that just joined the club, and I'm evaluating a member that has been there for 2 years. How does that work? And I usually have the same metaphor or analogy to that. We all go to eat somewhere out. We all see movies. We all attend to events. And even though we are not cooks, even though we are not movie producers, even though we are not actors, we do have an opinion on them. I mean, after we eat at a crappy place, we usually say, wow, the food was so bad, it was undercooked, it was tasteless. Or after a movie, we could say, well, the actors just used cliches, it was all about graphics, there was no plot, the plot was ridiculous. Well, that's an evaluation, that's your opinion on the movie, and that's what you are doing as well within the clubs. You're providing your opinion on how you felt the section performer did. So don't be afraid of sharing your feedback, just be aware that after saying, for example, well, the plot was so cliche, you would have to explain why, and you would have to offer some suggestions on how would you have liked to see it or to hear it. Now, a typical meeting goes something like this, although in the materials you'll see a more detailed description. But just so that you are aware, this is just a suggestion. Clubs are quite free to organize things differently. There are some sections that must always be there, but the ordering and things like that, that's quite up to them. Initially, the meeting starts introducing the meeting. He usually addresses the guests and the members there. He talks a bit about Agora, about the club, if there are new members or guests. And then he introduces what we call the evaluator roles or the accessory roles, which are the timer and the grammarian. Each of them explains their role, what they're going to do. And then for each section, what the meeting leader does is he first asks the evaluator of the section to talk a bit about the goals of that section. So for example, if that section is about a prepared speech, or if that section is about a community project, then the evaluator would say, well, we have this member that did this project, or that is about to present this particular speech. And we have to be, for example, if that speech is about mastering vocal variety or mastering nonverbal language, body language, then the evaluator could say to the audience, we have to be particularly vigilant on how the member moves, how the speaker moves, how he controls his gestures, how he controls his stance, his pacing. And then the meeting leader gives the floor to the person doing the project or that particular section, in the speech in this case. And after the speech is over, usually the meeting leader gives some time for feedback. Could be 2, 3, 5 minutes, in which the evaluator prepares his evaluation, and also the audience can give written feedback. And this process is repeated for each section, basically. After all the sections are done, there is the conclusion of the meeting, in which the meeting leader calls the grammarian to provide a report, the timer to provide a report, and we have a special role, which is the meeting evaluator, that provides a general feedback on how well the meeting went. So for example, the meeting evaluator could say, the meeting started late, we should improve on that, or there was some noises, or the environment was noisy, or I felt that it was too slow, or we spent too much time, things like that. It's all for improvement. Remember this cycle in which you learn, you practice, you get feedback, and you improve based on that. Now, I have been quite abstract on the sections part, but what sections do we have in a meeting? Well, these are only some of the sections that you could have. You could have prepared speeches, which are speeches that are according to the educational program, like the one I mentioned, a speech with the goal, a project with the goal of improving your body language, a project with the goal of improving your vocal variety, a project with the goal of improving how you use humor or how you use anecdotes in a speech. You could have sections about thinking critically, about speech analysis. You could have hot questions sections, which are quite fun. They are for being able to answer questions on the fly without thinking too much, and they help a lot. All of these are documented in our materials, and you're free to combine them in whatever way you want. Usually a typical meeting would have 1 to 3 prepared speeches, which are usually 5 to 10 minutes, no more. And then a section of hot questions, which is quite fun. That would be usually 15 minutes. And then maybe some language improvement games or icebreakers, or maybe even a debate. And the whole thing usually lasts between 1 hour and a half and 2 hours. So this is the general structure about the meetings. Any questions about how they are structured? Of course, we don't have time in this training session to go over each of the individual elements, how a speech is prepared, how the thinking critically program works, how the thought of the day works. You can find them all in the documentation. Feel free to ask. later on the social groups or by email. But at least what I would like for you to take away from this session is what is a club meeting and how a club meeting proceeds. What is also important to realize is that all club meetings have an agenda, have a meeting plan, a meeting schedule. It's not like a chaos randomly happening, or it's not a gathering in which at that moment we decide what to do. No, everything is pre-planned and the roles of the different people are known in advance. Of course, someone will not show up at the meeting at the last moment and someone else will have to fill in his role. But that's the exception. That should be the exception. Ideally, you will have an agenda in which it is clearly said, the meeting leader is this person, then we'll have 3 speeches delivered by these particular people that are doing these particular projects, then we'll have the debate, or we'll have a hot questions section, and these are the evaluators and things like that. So all the members know in advance what's going to happen in a meeting, and theoretically even how long it takes. But that's another thing. Meetings are usually over time, but the goal is to keep them constrained. So, any questions about how meetings are structured?
I just wanted to say that we in Malaga and Spain have been doing this now for the past 2 years very successfully. And the important thing is that each single member who comes to our meetings has to have a chance to have a little bit of stage practice and has the possibility to say something to members. Therefore, the possibility to be a timer or a grammarian or the counter for filler words allows people who are often very frightened to speak in public to have 1 or 2 minutes of stage experience, and that is very helpful to all these people.
Yeah, that's, please remember to mute yourself when you're not talking. Thanks, Vincent. Indeed, that's a great practice. As I mentioned before, clubs are free to introduce additional sections or additional ways of operating as long as they are educational and they work. And we are very thrilled to hear about all those ideas, because some of those ideas can make it into the overall program. For example, the language improvement section was an idea by Emma Davis from Madrid. And just like that, Agora is basically built collectively. It's not like a top-down thing, or it shouldn't be. More questions? Okay, then let's move forward to the educational program itself. We have what is called a basic educational path, which is a series of projects that develop the skill of public speaking, or at least the fundamentals of public speaking. Here you see a diagram. Obviously, it's much more detailed in the educational materials, and we have a special book in the works about that. Just to, let's say, give you a few hints or tips, each of these points that you see here is a project that you will have to deliver in front of your club. And each of these points is evaluated according to specific criteria. You shouldn't take the evaluation as something, again, like an objective score of your performance. No, it's just someone else's opinion. But if he thinks that you didn't quite meet the objectives, it's okay to repeat as many times as you want. The goal, although people many times ask about certificates, and yes, we do provide certificates, I'll talk about that later, but you shouldn't be seeing the certificates as an end goal. The end goal of this whole thing is your own personal development. It's really lying to yourself if you want to rush to the program just to get the certificate. It doesn't help anyone, much less you yourself. So for example, things like, as you can see, the projects are relatively focused. So for example, in things like in the project of speech development, you will learn about how to develop a speech, what linguistic resources you could use to drive a point. In body language, you will learn how to emphasize some points using your gestures and your body, and actually that's quite an important part of public speaking. In presentation software, you'll learn how to do proper presentations and not things that are absolutely boring. And then we'll have, let's say, additional projects, part of the speaking techniques section, which can be used in very specific occasions. So for example, using humor, in that section, in that project, you will practice how to intertwine humorous notes in a speech, not telling jokes, because telling jokes is not the same as using humor in a speech. And usually telling jokes, as in the speaker stops and says, I'm going to tell you a joke, that usually is a disaster in public speaking. Humor is much more nuanced, humor is much more subtle, and it's very powerful, as well as using emotion, driving the audience to feel something, or using anecdotes, especially personal stories, how they can reinforce your message, how they can transmit, or they can drive a point, sometimes much more efficiently or effectively than just presenting a bunch of data or a rational argument. One of the things that you will see is that unfortunately, humans are mainly emotional creatures. So usually the convincing or persuasion is done using these advanced techniques. Humor, anecdotes, emotion is not done, unfortunately, using data or rational arguments. And now, once you have completed the basic educational path, we have some advanced paths which are in the works. They are not yet ready. In fact, some of them are ready, but they are waiting for the online platform, which are more specialized tracks that are intended to develop skills that you're particularly interested in. So for example, if you want to become an entrepreneur or a businessman, then you would probably be interested in the speaking in business context or speaking for entrepreneurs track. If you're interested in becoming, I don't know, a politician or a salesman or something like that, you could be interested in the persuasive skills track. If you're interested in teaching people, then the educational speeches is for you. And in each of these tracks, there are projects that are specifically designed to develop and make you practice those skills that characterize a good educational speech, a good sales speech, a good venture capital speech. And as you see, you have a lot of choices. We have a special program, thanks to some of our members, that is specifically targeted at youth clubs. Youth clubs, which could be clubs for kids below, let's say, 11, 12, early school and preschool years. That is a simplified version of our educational program, and that you could use as a community project. Now, where do you find all of that? We have the online wiki, which is the main source for all the documentation. We have downloadable ebooks. All of that is free. Well, everything is free, basically. We have printed books. Hopefully, one will be ready before the convention. Those books, unfortunately, we have to sell them because printing does cost money, but it's merely the cost price. In any case, the printed books do not contain anything that is not in the free electronic materials. So it's not like, as I mentioned before, the goal here is not that we sell stuff. We offer everything for free, but some people just prefer to have a printed book. I don't know, they think it's more professional, it's more practical, whatever. They like the feel of the paper. In that case, they can buy what we already have online as a professionally designed print book. And we have forums and workbook groups that are going to be available also before the convention, before September. Now, about the certificates. As you finish each of the parts of the educational program, yes, you will be issued a certificate. The certificate is an official one signed by the Agora Speakers International Foundation. And additionally, clubs are free to introduce their own certificates for, I don't know, specific achievements like a best speaker of the meeting, or best evaluator, or best project. That is, clubs have complete freedom in that. One additional thing that we provide, that we will start providing after the convention, are badges. Badges that can be used in online resumes. They conform to an open standard, so that every employer that wants to verify your qualifications can click on the badge and see that what you have accomplished and what the purpose of the whole thing was. So, any questions about how the educational program works? Any of the veteran members, do you want to say anything? Just remember to unmute yourself first.
Hi,
Hi.
I just want to ask from where we will get the materials.
The materials are available online from the web. You just need to enter the wiki and you have everything there. You
Okay.
can download them, print them, whatever, distribute them in the club. What I wouldn't do is just allow me 2 seconds. What I wouldn't do is downloading everything and I don't know, reusing it for 3 months, because usually we are constantly improving the materials. So the proper, I hate that word, but the recommended way of using them is just, I don't know, for a meeting, you need this particular project, or you need this particular material, you download it, you print it, or you just use it online, and that's it. So, please. Other questions regarding the materials?
Hello.
Hello.
What are the milestones for the certificates that we get?
The milestones for the certificates are basically the 3 sections of the basic educational path, meaning that once you complete your first projects, you get a small certificate. Once you complete the basics of speaking, you can get an intermediate certificate. And the final certificate for the path, which I would say is the most important, is after completing the path.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, other questions? Okay, so let's go on to how to create new clubs. Actually, the process is relatively easy. The difficult part, I would say there are 2 boulders, 2 difficult stones to overcome in the process. The first one is actually, well, I'll talk about all of that later. The first one is actually knowledge about how we operate. And that's why we started doing these training sessions, so that we can provide a summarized version of all the educational materials, because sometimes we initially started quite small, and it was a small book called the Agora Guide, but then it started growing, and the wiki started growing, and now I can understand that it can be a bit overwhelming to see everything. But I really hope that sessions like this clarify the whole thing a bit. But in any case, please don't consider this session as a substitute of actually using the materials. If you want to start a club, you should do some reading about how clubs operate, in that explain in much more detail the things that I've spoken about here. Because, okay, I said here that, okay, participants present a speech in front of the club, but I didn't say how exactly that works. All of that is in the materials. So there are several what we call core requirements that clubs need to meet. And these are core requirements or core attributes of the foundation itself. The first of all is neutrality. As I mentioned, we don't have any agenda. We do not promote any worldview or any particular approach towards anything. We don't promote, I don't know, any particular religion. We don't promote any particular political system. And clubs should not do that either. A club should be always neutral, because in an Agora club, there can be members of different viewpoints, of different sensibilities, members that may not agree with some of the viewpoints of other members. So clubs should always be neutral. That's also important because you have to consider that what you do in a club or what we do officially can affect people in other parts of the world. So, for example, if we started saying somewhere that, oh no, we want to promote, that would be ridiculous, but just an example. If we're a Christian association, well, that wouldn't make people in the Muslim countries very happy. Or if we started promoting political reform, obviously that will make people in other countries very happy. So, as I mentioned, and that's very important for our clubs, clubs should be neutral. We don't have an official viewpoint on religion. We don't endorse any particular one. We don't endorse political systems. We're just for improving the lives of people. That doesn't mean that the individual members shouldn't have. No, by all means, please do. And we encourage you to have your own strong opinions about things and to act on them by means of community projects. So if you're a Muslim and want to help a local mosque, then by all means. If you're a Christian and want to help a local church, by all means. If you want to fight for animal rights, by all means. But that is a member's, let's say, viewpoint, not the viewpoint of the club or the viewpoint of the foundation. Of course, a core requirement is that we don't discriminate. Equality. Clubs should be open to all people, all clubs should be open to all people, regardless of their social status, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their color, regardless of their sexual orientation, regardless of their abilities or disabilities, regardless of their viewpoints, regardless of anything. And we don't accept segregation of any kind within the clubs. There cannot be male-only clubs, there cannot be women-only clubs. We do accept on a case-by-case basis in some particular places clubs that by cause of force majeure, they do need to have that, let's say, membership limitation. For example, a club in a prison, obviously, well, the members are going to be inmates and they have to conform, they have to comply with the local regulations. But other than that, if it's an open general club, it should not allow any kind of discrimination. Clubs should be non-profit, meaning that you can charge fees, and we encourage clubs to charge fees to the members in order to support their operation, in order to pay for the venues, in order to pay for the printing costs, in order to pay for, I don't know, microphones or paper or pencils or printing evaluation cards. And also, it's usual for members to be a bit more committed if there are some fees. But everything that the club collects should go towards the operation of the club and not for profiting. You can collect funds for making a party at the end of the year, that's fine. But what you cannot do is pay the president of the club for organizing it, for example. Another core requirement is tolerance. We expect that all members respect each other. And you may not agree with someone's opinion. You may have a strong viewpoint on that. But all discussion and all debate should take place peacefully. And that's one of the core goals of the foundation, promoting the peaceful coexistence and the tolerance of ideas. That doesn't mean necessarily that all ideas are equal. I personally do have a strong opinion about that. But in any case, all disagreements should be expressed peacefully and through the debate mechanisms that we have. And another core value of clubs and of the foundation is intellectual honesty. What does that mean? Intellectual honesty means that there is nothing wrong in recognizing that you're wrong. There's nothing wrong in recognizing that a belief or an opinion you have held is really not the right one or not the most correct one. It's a bit like the way science works. We constantly reevaluate what we know. We constantly critically examine what we know, our own beliefs, and we adjust based on that. There's nothing wrong in that. So intellectual honesty sometimes is a synonym of being open-minded, of being able to accept other viewpoints and being able, especially, to change your own viewpoint, which is a paramount of good leaders. Now, this is quite an important slide, so I want to stop here to ask whether there are any questions about this, any requirements. Okay.
Hello,
So, yep.
me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you for this explanation, and I'm happy to listen to them. But in this one, you said non-profit organization. Yes, you know, it is actually
I can barely hear you. Can you speak a bit louder?
It is, yeah. I just want to ask for a clarification on this. When you said, yeah, groups can, like, leaders of the team can charge like members in order to be able to meet the project they are doing. So actually, the question I'm trying to ask is that Agora speakers, like the Agora Foundation, like you as the administrators, what are you doing to ease like the running in smooth running of those clubs? Like, don't you offer anything? Like, everything has to be from like local organizers and then the members in terms of resources, because we are very sure that the organization cannot be like the club cannot be run without resources. So this is just what I'm trying to ask, hoping that you understood what I mean.
Let me try to repeat the question to see if I heard it properly and I understood it properly. Basically, you're asking whether the foundation as such offers any other resources, any resources other than educational materials and what I mentioned before, like a platform and all that. Probably you're referring to material resources or funds. Am I correct?
Yes, yeah. In terms of running the clubs, that sometimes you need to do like invitations, sometimes you need to run something very important like going to schools. You need like fund, yes, and it's not necessarily you have to meet it within the members of the club. So did you, as an organization, support in a way to ease this challenges of financial challenges that clubs can be like clubs can have? You as an organization do that?
At this point, no. I want to be completely honest with that and not beat around the bush. We don't provide. We can. It's not that we don't want to. It's just that we cannot, because we ourselves don't have the funds. So we cannot provide any material help. I'm sorry about that, or funds, or anything physical. We cannot ship to you the books, or we cannot even give you the books for free. I mean, if you come to a convention, then probably yes, because we will have them there. But in terms of material aid, at this point, no. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Understood. I just want to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you need something like that, and that's part of the project and that's part of the leadership activities, you should raise your funds locally, not necessarily by taking them from members, but from the local community as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions about this particular slide? Really, the choice that we faced was whether we should charge fees for membership initially. And I'm mentioning that because somewhere there may be some reference to an old plan of charging members proportionately to the GDP of the country. So, for example, I don't know, someone in Cameroon will be paying $5 a year, and someone in Spain will be paying $70 a year, and someone in Singapore will be paying $120 a year. But in the end, we dropped all that because the goal was really trying to reach out and help everyone, or as many people as we could. Which means that since we don't charge anything, our funds are really very limited, especially as a young foundation right now. As we develop and as we become more recognized, especially in front of the authorities and especially in front of private financing sources like big corporations or government grants or European grants, then we will acquire more capabilities. And at that point, we will re-examine that. I mean, I'm not saying that we will never provide financial aid to any club initiatives. I'm just saying what it is now. I can't promise that in the future will change, but for sure it's something that we will reevaluate in the future. Okay, so apart from the core requirements, which are basically about more ethereal or moral things, there are a set of operational requirements in terms of the club. For example, every club should meet at least once a month, because otherwise it's pointless. The time interval between meetings is so large that people just forget about it. And there need to be several educational sections in every meeting, but all of that you can learn about it in the materials. I just want to mention that apart from the lofty goals of equality and tolerance, we have some particular requirements towards clubs in terms of how meetings should proceed. The goal of that is not because we like imposing things, but because any member of Agora can go to any other club in Agora, and we want to ensure that the experience is more or less homogeneous, so that you won't have any surprises or any, I don't know, weird things happening in clubs. So what is the specific process for starting a club, or what is the recipe for success? Actually, this is not only for starting a club. I would say that's a recipe for success in anything in life. It's first of all and foremost, above everything, start now. Make a first step. Because many times people just become paralyzed, finding excuses in search of some perfect start. I mean, we cannot start a club until we have the perfect venue. We cannot start a club until we have absolutely everything clear and we know the program by heart. We cannot start a club until we are able to answer every single question that a guest can pose at us. No, if you do it like that, you will never start. I can tell you that in advance. You should start even in an imperfect situation, even without having everything ready, and make mistakes. Yeah, you will make mistakes. The point is learning from them quickly, asking for feedback, and improving on that. People in the technical areas, people from the IT world will usually recognize this pattern as an agile one. The goal is start now, iterate quickly, fail quickly, and learn from the failure and improve. And of course, you can always consult with us. This for club success will be important. For everything else in life, of course not. So I really want to encourage you to make a step as soon as you have the bare minimum that you can. Because in fact, you will be surprised how people that attend meetings are enthusiastic about helping and about making the whole thing a success. And now about the particular steps. The first thing that you need to have is knowledge about how Agora works. Because obviously, if you're starting something, you should really know at least partially what you are getting yourself into. this is one of the things that you can do, attending trainings. If you couldn't attend it, then you can watch the recording. Reading the manuals, that would be quite necessary, I would say. And of course, feel free to ask any sort of questions at any time in any of the social groups. Usually Facebook and email works better. If you ask in Twitter, it's going to be a bit more complicated. We're unfortunately not that active in Twitter or, I don't know, LinkedIn or YouTube. But it's a possibility. Once you have the knowledge, and I insist, even if it's not perfect, even if you haven't read absolutely everything, then you have to decide several things. First of all, is how your club is going, what's going to be your club's name. There are a few requirements here, not very big, but they're just intended, they just aimed at avoiding confusion. So the largest geographical part you can have in a name is a city. So you cannot be called, I don't know, Agora Speakers France. And the reason for that is because hypothetically in France, there will be other clubs in the future. And if your club is called Agora Speakers France, it would seem as if it's some sort of official representative of France, which would not be the case. I mean, each club is independent. All of them are equally important. There is no more important club than any other. Of course, some clubs have been running already for 3 years. Some are just newly born. But that doesn't change that they are all equal. And of course, the name must be unique within the city. So if someone in, I don't know, someone in Rabat goes to Agora Speakers Rabat, or wants to go to Agora Speakers Rabat, there is only one such club in the city. Otherwise, it would be a mess. And it's not really necessary. Sure, it's great, but it's not really necessary to include Agora in the club name. You could be called Advanced Speakers of Rabat. You can be called Passionate Speakers of Casablanca, whatever. It doesn't really matter. As long as it doesn't include, there are some details in this, like you cannot include religious references or hate speech or, well, I mean, obvious things. But apart from that, you're completely free in choosing the club name.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Finally, I'm joining, and I just want to say hi.
Hi.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Sarah. I'm in Seoul, in Korea. I come from Ireland, and yeah, I'm just happy to see some of your faces on this Zoom. And
oh, I remember now that I promised to turn off the video, then didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I promise that that's the only broken promise.
Yeah. I'd like to interject a little bit from
Sure.
what I briefly heard. I personally see no problem in talking about religion in a group discussion in a setting, so long as it's not like so long as somebody isn't imposing a religion on somebody else.
Exactly. Maybe obviously I expressed myself terribly. It's not that you cannot talk about this. By all means, talk, have debates about religion, about everything, everything that is legal in every country, because not all kinds of let's say discussions are legal in all countries. But what I want to say is that the club cannot have like an official viewpoint on that. The club as a whole. So you cannot have like I don't know, a Muslim club or a Christian club or a Buddhist club.
Okay. All right. Anyway, nice to meet you.
Sure, you're welcome here. So next thing you have to decide is your club logo, and we encourage everyone to have a logo because it affects how the branding materials are afterwards. You can use a totally new logo like this one with the rocket there. You can use what's called the standard logo, which is, well, a quick logo that basically includes your name and the official logo. And you can have a derived logo, which is recycling some part of our logo. Usually the flame is quite popular, but it could be some other things, and the colors. The only thing is that obviously if you create a standard logo or a derived logo, you cannot claim copyright on it because it includes part of our own assets.
Oh, I'm gonna raise my hand again.
Sure.
So Agora is it's Creative Commons, or it has a right? Or there's Agora is trademarked, or
Agora is Agora, the Agora logo and the Agora flame are trademarked. Exactly, we need that for protection. And we had I can chat with that about that with some of you in private. We had quite a, let's say, tumultuous start. We had to overcome quite a few problems, and especially quite a few attacks from others. So we needed to protect ourselves. Yeah.
Oh.
Let's leave it as that. No sinners will be named here. But yes, and we still endure some of that, by the way. But it's not a problem anymore. And we need to ensure that there is like a consistent use of the whole thing, because otherwise someone can come up with some weird project and call it an Agora project. And again, that could have repercussions for other clubs elsewhere in the planet. So, for example, if someone uses the official logo of Agora and writes, I don't know, a manifest for political reform in China, then obviously, well, China is not going to be very amused about that. So there are like additional considerations in protecting the use of the logo. So as I mentioned, clubs can charge fees to the members. That's up to them. The periodicity, frequency, the amount of the fees, that's entirely up to each club. You can charge $5. You can charge $5,000 if you find anyone that can pay that. But there are strict financial requirements, and there are two basically. The first of them, I already mentioned it. Clubs should be non-for-profit. And the second one is that all the finances should be available to all members of Agora. So everyone should be able to see how the money is being used. Again, that is something that solves a problem that we saw in many other organizations. When money is used in an opaque way or in a non-clear way, it becomes ripe for abuse, that situation. And we want to avoid that at all costs. So basically, all clubs that want to charge fees, they have to have like their full accounting available to everyone, detailed, not in aggregate form. There are a bit more, I mean, all of these requirements are in the documentation materials. They are a bit more detailed there. Especially, for example, members have to approve big expenses and things like that. But we can have additional chats about that. And well, I would say that the easiest decision would be how frequently you want to meet. As I mentioned, the minimum is once a month, but apart from that, it's really up to each club. One thing I forgot to mention in the club fees is that they shouldn't be discriminatory. Although, meaning that every single member should be charged the same amount. You cannot charge, I don't know, a professional more than someone that is from a different profession. We do make some exceptions, though, in the sense that it is okay to offer discount for, let's say, vulnerable, what we call vulnerable collectives, like pensioners, unemployed people, young people, and things like that. And it's we also have a couple of exceptions for people that bring a lot of value to a particular club. So, for example, if you're an English-speaking club in a country where English is not the official language, for example, in Spain, or I would say in Korea as well, then you could offer a discount to native speakers of that language, native speakers of English, as long as they contribute to improving the overall language of everyone. Or,
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but principle, I wouldn't be able to do that. My profession is like linguistic education here. That's how I earn my bread. Also, for everybody listening, it's a little bit late. I think for a group, a communicational group, I would not, like, ethically, I would not be able to give or get a discount from other people because of my language. Like, it's this is a communication group, right?
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that's up to each club. As I mentioned, it's an option. It's an option. You can have it in your club, or you cannot have it. That's up to each club. Just as, for example, if a club has members that are well-known public speakers or very experienced in some particular areas, and they provide workshops and evaluations, and they have helped the club members thrive and succeed, then the club can make exceptions for them, because after all, that's their professional job, so to say. But again, what I'm talking about is about options that the club has, because if we just said, no, the fee should be equal to everyone, then one thing that we see in many non-native language clubs is that native people usually become overwhelmed and fed up of doing the same role over and over again, and I'm paying for that as well on top of it. Like, I don't know, English speakers in Spain, they always get asked to be grammarians, they always get asked to be evaluators, and of course they get fed up. So that's one possible way of addressing it. You have the freedom to use it. It's not like you have to use it. So the next step would be having a minimum amount of founding members. 8 usually works well if they are committed, although it's a bit shaky. The foundation would be a bit shaky. Our personal recommendation would be 10 to 12 members is a minimum. And you should have an initial set of officers, which are basically the people managing the club. In the documentation, you will see that there are different officers that a club can have, but the critical ones at the beginning are the president that coordinates all the work, the vice president of education that basically deals with the educational program and with the initial project, and the vice president of membership that basically tends to members, greets guests, and things like that. I would say those are critical. Usually, if a single person is starting the club, he will be doing everything, and that's an unpleasant situation. Sometimes it's inevitable, but it should be addressed as quickly as possible, because it could lead to burnout. If the founder of the club is doing everything, although it can be thrilling at the beginning, but it leads very quickly to a burnout, especially because some of the activities are like very repetitive, preparing the agenda, greeting guests, sending out notifications, changing members for projects. They should be split as soon as possible, as soon as the other members get the training. There are other roles which are equally important. You have them all in the documentation. Some of them are optional, like VP of Marketing or Community Manager. Some of them are relatively novel if you come from different organizations, such as the Vice President of Community Leadership that is in charge of looking for speaking and leadership opportunities outside of the club environment. And some of them depend on the club operation. So for example, if you don't charge fees, you don't need a treasurer, obviously. But if you do, you will have to have a treasurer, and it will have to be different from the president. Actually, one single person can have multiple roles, and a role, for example, someone can be, because of a temporary situation, can be both VP of Education and VP of Membership, and a role can be shared by more than one person. So for example, in a very big club of 60, 70 people, usually it's too much for the VP of Education, and that role is shared by several people. There is only one requirement here, and that the only role that cannot be shared is the president, because he acts like the contact point for the club. That must be a single person. And there is also an exception in that everyone can have more than one role, is that the president cannot be also the treasurer, if there is a treasurer, because it's all about financial control the finances in the club to avoid abuse. Now, the last part, and that's the second stone that I would say is sometimes hard to overcome, is the venue, the meeting venue. There are different things that can work here. You can, being a nonprofit, and we can provide support here in the sense of providing letters of confirmation or official documents that we are really a nonprofit, an educational one. You could ask for venues in schools, in universities, in public libraries, or you can try to strike like win-win arrangements with pubs and cafes and restaurants, in the sense that you're not charged for the venue, you're not charged for using the room of a pub, but in exchange, well, members have to, I don't know, order a drink or something like that. Worst case scenario for regular meetings, you can always use open spaces. In fact, sometimes it's also quite recommendable as an activity, meeting in parks, meeting in public theaters, things like that. And it's also a good activity for raising awareness about the club, because first of all, it helps members by getting them out of their comfort zone. People quickly become accustomed to speaking in front of the same audience all the time in the same venue. So changing the venue, or even making them speak in an completely open place where curious people can drop by and see what's going on, like in a park, it's quite challenging sometimes. And for raising awareness, it's also very useful because it draws curious people into becoming members later on. But I would say that's good. I don't know, 2, 3, 4 times a year. But usually the club should have a venue, a fixed one. Now, about the club registration itself, there is not a lot required. You just need to have a meeting already scheduled, like the first meeting, at least a couple of weeks in advance, because we do create a public campaign and we do promote the meeting, and we need some time for that. And then you submit a club registration form. All is done online. Basically, you fill in, I don't know, the name of the club. The link is in the documentation, but basically you state what your club name is, who is the founder, the contact point of the founder. You don't need to provide the list of members. At this point, we don't need that at all. You need to say whether your club charges fees and how much they are, and the meeting venue and things like that. It's done instantly, and you get assigned the club number. And then we create the third arrow is a different color because that's on us. We announce the meeting and the club chatting publicly. We promote it. We try to get you more members, more attendance, at least within our abilities. That's something that we do with our own funds. And then, we hope that you share pictures of your success. There's no paperwork to be done in terms of club registration. There is no reporting to be done, meaning that you have to provide, I don't know, monthly reports or quarterly reports. There's nothing like that. So it's quite a streamlined process. So questions about club creation?
Yeah, no questions here.
Good.
Maybe like not sure about anybody else, but
Great.
Thanks for clarifying. This is Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy.
Alexander, thanks for clarifying the club registration process. I was a little bit puzzled about it, and the membership payment. Thanks for doing away with it. I was under the impression that it was still going on. The payments still are to be made to.
No. We dropped that a long time ago. That was the plan. That was the plan for the first year. And actually, if you run upon any materials, you would see that it says something like, "We will not have fees until 2017, and maybe later we will have some." But then at the end of then it was at the end of 2018, and then it was like, whatever. No, what's the point? What's the point of the fees anyway?
Thanks a lot. That was a great effort on your part to get it.
No, we don't charge. We don't charge any fees, but I need to clarify that we don't charge any fees to clubs that are open to everyone. If a company if a company wants to create a corporate club, a club that
Yes.
uses everything that we have created
Yes.
for their own benefit for their employees, then they
Yes.
will have to pay fees. Yes.
Right. And for university and schools, will it be applicable, Alexander?
We have a special kind of club for that situation. We call it the public interest club, which are
Yes.
clubs in educational institutions and government institutions and things like that,
Yes.
which are not open to everyone, of course. For example, if you
Yes.
create a club in the Ministry of Education, obviously only civil servants will be able to go, or if a club in a
Yes.
university is only for students and teachers,
Yes.
that's fine. Those clubs also don't pay any fees.
Right, John. Thanks a lot for that clarification.
However,
Hello, Alexander. Hello.
hello,
Alexander, I'm Tanveer from Pakistan.
hello.
Okay.
Hi,
I'm Tanveer from Pakistan.
Hi, Tanveer.
I want to start a club in Karachi.
Mm-hmm.
And how can we start? We need some sort of attorney from your side to organize our first meeting here in Karachi.
You need, sorry, what?
Attorney, letter of authorization.
Why?
Because at least there should be some legal requirements to start a club in the district.
I don't know if that's a local requirement. I mean, we can provide an authorization of using our materials if you need it.
Okay.
Just have in mind that clubs are independent from Agora. I mean, clubs are legally independent entities from Agora. We don't control them. We don't manage them.
Before that,
We will do it our own. Mean independently. We will do it independently, not on your behalf or on the behalf of Agora Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Exactly. Clubs are independent and they are affiliated with Agora, but they are not, let's say, branches of or chapters of Agora, things like that. We don't control them in any way.
Can I just ask a question? What is the difference between a group meeting and an official club meeting? Like you can have a meeting with your friends, and if it is successful, then you can grow it into Agora or something else. So
The difference basically is that once you say something is an Agora meeting, there are some expectations as to what happens within that space. But of course, an Agora meeting can be organized back to back with some other activities. So for example, you start with a friendly meeting, with a dinner. That is theoretically not an Agora, let's say, section, but make clubs do it. And then after the dinner is finished, you, I don't know, declare like officially, okay, let's start the meeting. This also has important nuances, because if we start saying that anything is an Agora meeting, then I don't know, official institutions will tell us, no, we are not giving you grants for having dinners. I mean, we are giving you grants for the educational activity and for the activities that are like valuable for society. So it's a mixed thing. And then after you're finished with the meeting itself, then you announce, okay, the meeting is finished, and now we'll have a drink, we'll go partying or whatever, we'll go socializing. And that's again a group meeting.
Hello, I have a question. To apply for a club number, you need to have a first meeting first. Is that exact?
You need to have it scheduled. Of course, you can have some, let's say, dry run or trial meetings before that. It's not necessary that you apply immediately for a number, but usually we really want to help, especially if it's the first club in a city, even more so if it's the first club in a country. And we run like marketing campaigns and promotions as much as we can with our limited funds in order to help that club. So it's in the best interest of the club to like schedule and register as soon as possible.
Okay. Okay, so, thanks.
Yeah, and especially if you want to print banners and things like that, usually the club number is there, and it's helpful to have the club number available.
Yeah, sure.
One thing, well, I will talk about the branding later. Any other questions about club creation or registration?
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. Oh yes. So I have a question. That is there an age requirement for registration, or if there is, do you need parental, permission?
There is no legal. I mean, there is no office. Let's say there is no official requirement on the part of Agora about what age the member should be. We usually think that 14 is a minimum age that can be mixed with an adult club. But having said that, you should check your local legislation about that, because in some countries that are especially keen on child protection, they would not allow a minor in such a club without a parent or a tutor. But again, that's so varied in different countries that we cannot say anything about it. Our recommendation is that the minimum age should be no less than 14, but it's a recommendation. We've had here in Spain examples of very young members, sorry, that were brilliant speaking, and they attend adult clubs with their parents. For anything younger than 14, we would recommend the youth program. That is a simplified, more oriented towards children.
Thank you.
Yeah, hello everybody.
Hi.
Yeah, I got one question regarding the online platform.
Yep.
That is yet to come. But do we have any plans to include registration fee for the online platform if it's coming in the future?
To include, sorry, what for the online platform?
So the online platform is yet to come, and the running would cost you operational budget to run the online platform. And in the future, are we in plan to include any registration fee from the member to register in the online platform, or that is still going to be totally free in the future as well?
The free thing is not going to change for the foreseeable future. I mean,
okay.
Agora is always going to remain free. Well, unless in the future when we have the online voting and system members vote something else, which I hope they don't, because we all know where that led. But until that moment comes, regardless of whatever costs we incur to develop, I don't know, branding materials, books, the online platform, whatever, Agora is still going to be free for public clubs, for clubs open to everyone.
Oh wow! Okay.
So we don't intend to like bite and switch, like, hey, we're free now, but then in 5 months now you start paying. No, that's not the goal. That's not the intention.
Thank you.
As I mentioned, this has a negative effect, and everything takes so much more time. But well, I think we prefer that way.
I think another person has a question.
Yeah, I have one question.
Second.
I have one question.
How
many we are having member, and how many clubs we are having till now?
That's a very good question, and I'll tell you why. Officially, we have like 98 clubs, and I say officially because since right now everything is open, which doesn't mean it's Creative Commons, by the way. I'm answering to what Sarah said before. I mean, the materials are free, but they are copyrighted. They're free. They're always going to be free for members, but the whole point of Agora is creating a community, and the more we are, the stronger we will be, and the easier it will be for us to develop other things. So right now, since everything is open and we don't have the online management platform, one could start a club and not register anything, not say a word. And in fact, I know for a fact that there are at least 5 clubs operating like that. It's not a big deal because I remember someone asked me once, okay, so what prevents me from taking all your materials and running a club privately? And I said, well, I mean, nothing really, but it's a bit ridiculous because joining Agora doesn't cost you anything really. And if you do it privately, you lose all the benefits of the community, and you lose all the I don't know, the most valuable thing, which is the members, access to all the members all around the world. Sure, yeah, you can do that. But that's not and that's one of the reasons why we want to have that platform running as soon as possible, and hopefully after the convention it will be operational. So basically, the answer to your question is 98 clubs that I'm aware of.
And how are the country? How many countries involved in the Agora?
Good questions. Wow.
I don't really have the exact number right now. Over 70 for sure, but I can't tell you like 75 or 82.
Okay, no problem. Thanks.
Thank you.
Ah. Anybody else?
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, welcome.
I am from Egypt.
Hi.
Hi. Now I become aware of all the activities, the program, all of that, but I still haven't known yet the first step of starting the club, how it will be.
The very first step would be for the members that are interested, the people that are interested, to get to know how Agora works. The first step is the knowledge step. This is just a small part of that step, meaning that, okay, you've attended this training, your other fellows that didn't manage to come here, they can watch the recording. And by the way, regarding, I don't know who asked that before. Anyway, there was a question of how do we find members in the same country or in the same city. We run campaigns constantly, and in fact, most of you here are because of a campaign we run in Egypt, in Morocco, in Pakistan, in Tanzania, in Kenya, in Ghana.
No, it's
no, not
I'm
you,
not
Sarah, not you. No, not you, not you.
No, sorry.
You found your way to us somehow.
Oh,
So
like here we are all finding our ways here.
yeah. So basically, a lot of people have just joined from all those countries, and we try to help with that, promoting Agora. I mean, if we see that there is a possibility of creating a club in a country, or more specifically in a particular city, then we try to run additional promotions, as I mentioned, to get help. Now, the next step would be gathering the people that are interested. If you know them in person, then perfect. For example, if you're a student or if you're a teacher in a school or a university, then you already have them. You just need to tell them how do you feel about creating this club. If you're completely alone, then we can try to help with that, finding additional people if you have really the commitment and the drive and the time and the energy required. Because creating a club is free, but it's free in terms of money. It's not free in terms of personal investment. It does take time. I won't lie to you. It does take energy. It does take commitment to create a club and run it initially, at least. Now, once we have that, you should try to really read the documentation and ask all the questions that you have. And after that, it's relatively, I would say the next step would be finding a venue. After that, it's just starting.
I mean, we found here in Spain, in southern Spain, that first when you start with a small group of friends. We found something, public speaking, something which we completely ignored. We didn't know that there's a beauty to developing new skills. And you get together with two or three of your neighbors, your friends, your peers at the university. We run our events at the public library every week. And there, the people who go and get books are also interested in obviously other activities, and therefore I think it's just spreading the word. There's a new science out, there's something which we were not aware of before, and suddenly people will come and will join you, and they will find that this is a very exciting venue, and it is something which will blow their minds, it will make them happier, and that will certainly work. So, and you can do that in any tiny community. You don't need to be in a large city or a small city, and you can get together with what Alexander said before. You can get together in a bar, on a bench in a park, on the beach, on the on the banks of the River Nile, for instance, and you will have fun. You don't need many people. Once you start the movement, then you will be sure to have success. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. That was super helpful. Indeed, as I mentioned, the first thing, it always, I don't know why it seems very challenging, but in fact, it's easy. Don't strive for perfection. Just start as soon as you have like the minimum number of members, because otherwise, like if you start with 4 people, it's not really public speaking. It's a group of friends. You can do test runs. Okay, let's pretend this is a speech project. Let's pretend this, that. But it will be educational in terms of how to run a club, but it will not be educational for each of them in particular. I mean, talking in front of 4 people is not really public speaking. But you should really try to start as soon as possible. I would say knowledge, 8 people, and a venue. Anything that is mentioned here, like club name, meeting frequency, these are not immutable decisions. I mean, you can start with the club name, then change it, then decide to meet a different frequency because this doesn't work. Nothing is set in stone. But of course, as the Chinese proverb says, even a journey of 1,000 kilometers or li starts with the first step.
Exactly.
That is 50% of the whole journey, actually.
Well, I'm enjoying this conversation right now. There are 25 people here. From scrolling to the right on my smartphone, so it's working. Whatever all of you people are doing, it is working. Discourse is good. No discourse is very bad. Yes. Oh God, I sound like Trump. Oh, it's bad. It's late here anyway. Sorry.
It's fine, Sarah. Initially, well, still it's a good percentage, but about 100 people signed to the event, then 50 of them registered on Zoom, about 50. So 25 are here. I would say that's quite a good percentage from experience.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, 25% is like a huge success. Well, 26. Now someone joined. Thank you for raising the bar. Go ahead and just ask. Don't need to raise your hand because I'm not looking at them, to be honest.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, my question is, can we organize events for fundraising or look out for sponsors on our meeting?
Sure, by all means. In fact, I will talk now about the branding. You can produce your branding materials and sell them. You can do any kind of fundraising activities as long as the funds are used in according to the rules. Meaning you have to have an accounting, you have to have transparent accounting, and you have to have, and the funds should be only targeted at the club itself. There are some more detailed rules, like clubs cannot have employees, clubs cannot invest in the stock market or things like that. But these are like just in case rules.
But again, if I may interject, I think don't worry so much about fundraising. There are no costs because thanks to Agora speakers, all the materials available online. All of us have internet access. Therefore, it allows us to consult, to read all these things. We do our evaluations often by Google Forms. Therefore, when a speech is being completed, each member of the group will, through WhatsApp, will receive the current evaluation form, and then they fill this in. So there are no real costs. That we don't have to worry about funding or finding something because there should not be any costs. And therefore, the nice thing about Agora Speakers is exactly that it is an educational club which allows you to do something, and it doesn't cost you a single cent or a penny or whatever currency you might have in your own country. Therefore, that makes it so beautiful. It's a very democratic, very basic thing. And you have access to that. And no matter where you are, and whether you are rich or poor, it doesn't matter. You can do it. Thank you.
Exactly.
Still, I would like to add an apostrophe here because, yeah, I used to think that way as well, Vincent.
Thank you.
And then Gosten came from Malawi. He's our ambassador in Malawi, And I was telling him, yeah, look, everything is online. I don't understand what the problem is. And he told me, listen, the people here, they don't even have mobile phones, so I have to download and print everything for them. Sometimes it's actually really helpful to have people in these situations, because it's like
Please don't get me started with
Sorry?
Africa, and it's kind of late here, but please don't get me started with the lack of technology in Africa.
Oh, well, that would be for a different debate. But the thing is, he was, and in the pictures he sent, it was really clear that it was a super poor community. So it kind of burst my bubble for sure about, yeah, well, it's online. I mean, get it, what's the problem? And after that, I started realizing that maybe the design of the material should be a bit more take into account that. But yeah, sometimes
Yeah. Actually, talking about the online stuff, it is very, very difficult for us, we Africans, because actually, if we are talking of getting all the stores on Google, it is actually very difficult, because if not all of us can actually be able to get everything on Google as it is. Yeah, I think maybe that's just the way it
yeah,
is
and
for
I
us
know
here
that
in
the data plans are not what we have here. I mean, here they sell you like 10 gigabytes a month, 25 gigabytes a month, 4G, 5G. In some places, you would be lucky if you get 100 megabytes a month. But that's why I mentioned you don't need to. You use them on a case-by-case basis. Don't try to download everything and print it out, because it will become obsolete next month probably. But for sure, if you can find a public library or things like that where you can download it and print it out, by all means.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Or you can, but that's like that is probably going to be overkill. You can order the printed book and share it and photocopy it. I didn't hear anything. No, you're breaking down a lot. Sorry.
Welcome.
Can you type it in the chat? Maybe.
Please breathe into the mic and out.
I mean, what the person is trying to get in connect with society, I think the main objective is that you start. If you can only print one manual, which will cost you, say, $2, and print this off the online platform, and if you have 2 copies at the club, and people can share this material and they can read it and can prepare. So maybe if you have one manual for the timer, one manual for the filler word counter, and one manual for people who deliver speeches, that could be a good base, and it will allow you to start without, because if you start, well, unless we have funds, we can't do it, well, then you might not ever start it once again. So therefore, even people might be able to fork out a little bit of money to do some of the photocopying. So I think the Agora Speakers allows you, contrary to many other public speaking clubs, to do that on a shoestring. You can do a lot without really having any funds.
Agora. It really is the beauty, because there's no bureaucracy in this organization. This organization, not DIS.
Our organization.
I will probably speak in Korean, and it's really strange. So I like culturalism coming from me. And this is being recorded, and I do not consent because I'm very camera shy. Either ways, I forgot what I was going to say. I don't know.
Never mind.
Khmer. Hi. Hello. Hi.
Hi everyone. It's Sarah from Pakistan.
Hi, Sarah. From Pakistan, I understood.
No, not from Pakistan.
Oh, the other Sarah.
Oh, the other Sarah. There's
Yes.
Sarah. She left. Oh no, she's there.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes, I'm also Sarah. People can hear me?
Yes, barely, but we can.
Hello? Now?
Hello.
Much better. Yeah, magic.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to know that if we have any set of rules or a code of conduct
Well,
are the guidelines to us can such things available?
Oh, please do. Please ask.
You broke down completely. I only managed to hear the first part of the question and whether they were available, but I completely missed what you were referring to. Can you, Sarah?
I
Can
was
you?
saying that, yeah, I was saying that do we have any code of conduct or any set of rules which can be served as like the guidelines for us? Then it will be very easier for all of us to follow all those things and to going through
Okay,
all
I
those guidelines.
understand.
You mean rules for the club operation?
Yes, yes.
Yes. I outlined here in the presentation. I outlined here in the presentation some of the main ones, but most of them, I mean all of them, are available in the online documentation. Still, there are few rules as such. I mean, yes, this is an educational foundation, so yes, every meeting, or at least every regular meeting, should have speech projects and things like that. But most of them are really in terms of in the way of just suggestions of how best practices, how to operate. Your club you can start with those suggestions and then tweak them so they can work better in your environment. And then you can innovate. You can create new sections. You can create, I don't know, new approaches. Try them out. If they work, by all means, share them with us so that we can share them in turn with the rest of the Agora community. But as Sarah, the other Sarah from Korea mentioned, we try to keep a low bureaucratical profile here. We try to keep it low on rules.
Oh, I'm allowed again. Ooh.
Yeah, oh, there's a button to silence everyone to eliminate the background noise. Everyone is always allowed.
It's only 10 p.m. here in Korea, but
that's nothing. In Spain, 10 p.m. is when the night starts.
I have stayed up all night. Sorry, people. I've stayed up all night for 2 nights.
Oh wow, that's not good.
Doing an essay which will fail on educational leadership. And then after 2 hours, and please I do not consent for this to be transferred to other people.
Then don't say it, because we cannot edit. We cannot edit the video. I mean, the video is recorded and everything will be shared as safe.
Well, I love all of you then. You're all fantastic. After doing that and submitting the essay, my husband woke me up after 1 hour sleep and drove me to a center to do a naturalization exam for the Korea citizenship. And in spite of all of that, I'm excuse the French, the bad language, but I'm really, really effed up. So, your job, all of your job, even the people who are not talking right now, communication is key. And Smedley would say the same thing. And I looked into the history and the legal history, and I can say that. So, meh. Communication is important. It doesn't matter where you are, who you speak to. It doesn't matter. Like if you have some idea and you want to share it with others and challenge it, that's good. And I'm out. Somebody else left this chat, so I'm going to be quiet now. Peace. Peace.
Alexander's turn.
Yeah. Hello?
One more thing.
Yeah.
Oh God. Somebody said there will be a recording.
Yeah. I mentioned it many times during the meeting, actually.
I did not hear you mention it.
At the very beginning, in the middle, 5 minutes ago.
5 minutes? I did not listen to that. I was like pee pee poo poo friend in the other room.
Okay, let's move on. I see some questions here in the chat. Competition among clubs, not necessarily. I mean, some amount of competition is good. There is a lot of demand for this kind of training and this kind of skill. And in fact, it's better if there are, for example, between having a club of 60 members and having 2 clubs of 30 members, I would rather go for the second part. First of all, because it's easier to manage. Second, because the waiting time for speaking, for getting a speaking slot, will be shorter. Because at the end of the day, a meeting is 2 hours. 3 hours is like an exaggeration already. And in 2 hours, you can only do so many speeches and so many projects. Maybe 2, 3, 4 if you're super good with time management. But if there are 60 members, then that means that if I want to speak, I would have to wait like a month or 2 months, or maybe we have had cases here in Spain in which the waiting time, the wait list was 6 months. So that's not reasonable. But there is another benefit. When there is only one club, people get used to the audience. They get used to the venue. They get used to the faces they see. They become their friends and things like that. And it is public speaking, but it's not challenging anymore. It's not pushing you out of your comfort zone. And after all, the goal of Agora is not being a social club. The goal of Agora is being an educational foundation. The social part is good, but it's not the main goal. So it is good if there are many clubs in which you can go and just get out of your comfort zone, get out of the usual venue, see new faces, see a new audience, and that's very positive for your own development. So yeah, by all means, it's good to have more clubs. And there's one additional benefit. When there are more clubs, you can have contests and competitions, and that's also always good.
I really couldn't care less about competition contests.
It depends.
No.
I mean,
Depends on what.
some clubs are really interested in that, and some people are really keen on that.
And you learn a lot about competition or within competition.
Yep, the pressure and the environment and the challenge is quite different. The whole mood is different. It's no longer so friendly. And remember, at the end of the day, this is just practice. The real public speaking will not happen in front of a friendly audience, will not happen in front of a captive audience. They will go away, they will boo you, they will fall asleep.
They will.
Yeah, they will. So let's say that contests are something midway between the happy club pond and the real ocean. Okay, let's move to the final part, which is about the branding, usage of the logos and things like that. Agora is quite liberal in terms of what it allows, especially because we don't want, again, this goes back to, we don't want to sell stuff. So we don't produce, maybe at some point in the future we will produce merchandising or things like that, but right now we don't do it, and we don't require anything like that. Even for things that almost all clubs have, like a banner, we don't really sell it. We provide the design, we can recommend some providers, but at the end of the day, it's up to the club where they order it from. There is only one requirement in terms of standard things, and it's that the banner should be standard. Especially because if you go to a convention and bring your club banner, it would be weird if it's different than everyone else's.
Please source your banner.
Sorry?
Is there a source for the banner?
A source? What do you mean?
Well, if you give the source of your banner to other people, banner is Agora, and here are the flames coming out of the Acropolis in Greece.
If you mean the design, the Photoshop file, then yes, we do. It can be personalized with the club name and all that, and then you can send it to whatever printing shop you have nearby or whatever. Sometimes the nearby ones are more expensive than getting it printed in the US, but that's again up to each club. We don't have a shop right now, and it's not a priority. So even if you wanted to, we wouldn't be able to sell it to you. So in terms of the branding, this is really important because there is a lot of confusion about that. The main objective of the branding rules is that it's clear what's a club produced material and what is an officially produced material. And that's for the protection of the whole Agora, as I mentioned before. Because if a club produces something and it has only the official logo, then someone may not be amused, and that may actually hurt other members elsewhere. So that's why we insist a lot in this. In anything your club produces, it should. Give me a second. Give me a second, and Sarah, give me a second, and I'll let you ask questions afterwards. Anything that the club produces should always include both the club logo and the official logo, and the club logo should come first to make it clear that this is a club thing and not an official thing. And obviously, well, you cannot modify the official logo. I mean, you cannot remove a column or remove the flame or things like that. And well, this one should be obvious as well. It cannot
I
be
joined
commercially.
before you. I joined rather late, and I really did have 2 very long overnight days, but I care strongly about this, and now I forgot the question, but I love all of you. Hang on, I'll come back to you with the question.
Meanwhile, here are some examples. I mean, the first one are not correct because the first one features the Agora logo more prominently, let's say, or bigger than the club logo, and the second one doesn't have a club logo at all, so it could be confused with an official material. All of the rest are okay. I mean, you can have your club logo or just the club name if you don't have a logo. I mean, it's not a requirement to have a logo. And Agora, same size, or Agora smaller, or Agora somewhere in the corner, that's fine. That's fine because it's clear that it's a club-produced material. And you can do your own merchandising as well. I mean, you can design your own awards. Here are some that Mr. Koka Prasad from India did for his Visakha Orators Club. That's fine. You can design your own merchandising as long as same rules. It should have both logos. And you can even sell them to raise funds. That's one of the things we allow. It's in the rules. You can design merchandising, sell it. There are some limitations on how to sell it. I mean, you cannot start a merchandising emporium selling worldwide Agora merchandise, but you can do it locally, and that's a nice source of funds in general.
Hello.
And just one last thing. All of the
Hello?
yeah, just give me a second. All of the, as Sarah said, source codes, or I would assume that would be templates or things like that, are available in what we call the brand portal. You can download logos from there. You can download the official fonts. You can download templates for almost everything. The banner template is there, agendas. They are not required. They could be used as a starting point. You can design your own as long as you meet the branding guidelines. The only thing that should not be changed is the banner, just for consistency. But the agendas, you can come up with a different format. If yours is better or different, by all means, share it with us. We'll share it with the rest of the Agora clubs. So we are always willing to experiment.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, my name is Mark. I'm speaking from Turkey.
Hi, Malcolm.
Okay. I want to ask if there is a club like this already in Turkey, because I'm a Ghanaian living in Turkey.
No,
So if not,
no, we don't have any clubs right now in Turkey. In fact, we are trying to run a campaign there in order to get started some in Istanbul in
yeah, I'm currently in Istanbul. So can
yeah,
I start the club here in
in
Istanbul?
Ankara. Sorry?
Can I start the club here in Istanbul?
Sure, by all means.
All
We can
right.
help. We can help you with that. Any questions you may have, any support. Actually, the response from the campaign has been quite good, exceptionally good. So there are a lot of people that are interested, and since we have like a different Facebook group for each country, it should be relatively easy. And I will direct all the members to that group. It should be super easy to get a club started. And all the campaigns were super targeted at one or two cities. So all the people that answered are in those cities. So that should make it even easier.
May I ask,
Sure.
how many people here in this group have gone to Turkey?
Come again, please.
You? Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm happy to help you in Turkey. That is a wonderful city. Istanbul is a wonderful place.
Yeah, yeah. It's a wonderful place for, especially for foreigners. It's a wonderful city to live in as a foreigner.
And I think there's probably is a large foreign community too, which will be interested in public speaking clubs. And perhaps,
Yeah.
although Alexander might not like the idea so much, but the socializing part
No,
of
no, no. I
meetings
like it. I love it.
are quite important. And sometimes,
By all
particularly,
means.
I'm saying sort of in an expat situation, maybe quite a lot of people who live in Istanbul would love to have some sort of a club where they can go and practice public speaking and also socialize with their fellow members.
Yeah, yeah, because what I noticed about this city is like last time I attended a conference like this, speaking conference like this, and I saw a lot of foreigners here. I never knew there are so many expats here in Istanbul like this. So I would like they will be very interested in
I'm
this.
not even there. Everybody is in a different country, my friend.
Okay, let's. I have there's a question here pending in the chat about what topics can we discuss in the club. In principle, anything. The club is free, though, to introduce some limitations, especially depending on the country, about topics for discussion. But unless it's like an officially stated limitation, you can discuss about anything. You can talk about whatever. I would prefer, personally, that no such limitations exist at all, but I'm aware that, well, the political situation is different in different countries. And as I mentioned here, we are not here to start any kind of revolution anywhere. So safety of members comes first. So they have to comply with the local legislation, we'll say.
Okay. So I want to ask again, the club
Answer
I'll
that.
register here, am I going to register it in the name of Agora, or it will be my own club I will register?
The clubs are independent from Agora. I mean, it will be your club. You can use Agora in the name, provided with certain limitations. For example, it cannot be called Agora Speakers Turkey, but it can be called Agora Speakers Istanbul if you want. Or it cannot have Agora at all, like, I don't know, Speakers of Istanbul. That's your call, and it's going to be your club, yes. I mean, you'll be the founding person, so to say, and the first president. But I do want to mention that one of the requirements for Agora clubs is that all the officials, during the first year, it is assumed that it will be a rocky start, and well, officials will be whomever can perform a certain role. But after the club has some stability, all official positions or officer positions are elected within the club. Although usually you won't have that problem because you won't have that many volunteers for being an officer. You will be lucky if there are people willing to be officers even. There are no limitations, by the way, in terms of, I don't know, you can be president only for 1 year. As long as people are happy and they elect you and things like that, it's okay.
Understand. But I'm asking, can I register the company because I'm a Ghanaian living in Istanbul? Can I register the company here and register one in Ghana to the same person?
Yes.
You can register. You mean a club, probably, not a company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can create clubs anywhere. No problem with that.
All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other concluding questions? There isn't much more to say, actually. I wanted this to be a short general introduction, but we are already over 2 hours. That's a common trait in Agora meetings.
Okay. Before I disappear, I have to give information.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, this is going to hang over me in the morning. It is 10:20 p.m. in Korea, and for the last 2 days, perhaps more, I have been writing essays, and
don't worry, we understand. I should tell you how many hours of sleep I get. So anyway, everyone, any other finishing questions, comments, remarks? Yeah, you can reach me anytime. Just give me some time. Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I miss messages because I receive like a ton of them. Not all of them very. I receive a lot of spam, truth be told. So if I don't reply within, I don't know, three days maximum, probably I missed your message at all.
All right. I want to ask one.
Really cool. Really. Are you smoking? Who's smoking?
Who's smoking?
Oh, right. Your ring is
anyway.
Hello.
Your shorts are awesome.
Yeah, I want to ask one question.
Go ahead.
All right. If I want to basically base my club on Agora, so maybe I want to introduce Agora to the members and everything, and I want to invite some of the leaders of Agora to come to Turkey and give a presentation or a speech about Agora before we start the club. Can it be possible like that?
Before starting a club, I can tell you it's going to be difficult because the time we have is super tight. But once the club is up and running, then for sure, if I'm constantly traveling, for example, and if it's close by, then I would love to drop by and say something. Although I don't know, I'm not particularly impressive, to be honest. So don't rely too much on me making any sort of effect.
really. Because the reason why I'm asking this question, because these Turkish people, I'm a Ghanaian and I'm African.
Uh-huh.
Understand? They have that perception. For you to organize a club here without anybody backing you, they think something different about it. You know this how this world is going. The series of racism over there. I'm not talking about the racism here in Turkey, but it's in the mind of people, not only in Turkey. So long as you are a black, I can finance for a conference room for the organization. But up to the people to accept my message and accept the club, I need somebody to back me. So I'll basically base on Agora, that this is the Agora speaking conference. They'll ask, who is the leaders of the Agora? I'm the leader of the Agora here in Istanbul. But they need a representative from Agora to come and speak or open the grounds for them. You understand my view? If it were to be in Ghana, I don't have any problem.
Yeah, I can understand what the problem is. Let's talk about it when the problem comes, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
There is one thing. Usually, there's not a problem with online meetings, or so sometimes online participation is good enough, or providing letters of support or official certifications of the status of Agora. What you mentioned, by the way, is important because it's a point I do want to talk about. Usually, we have this role of country ambassador that is somehow like an evangelist of Agora. He tries to help in the country. He promotes Agora. He encourages the creation of new clubs. He's the point of contact for Agora in the country. So, for example, when media wants to interview someone, he is usually the guy, or he or she. So, for example, Helen is the ambassador for the UK, and I think he left already. I know Jeremy is there. He's for Sri Lanka. And usually the person that starts the first club and keeps it, has it running for a while, if he really has the energy and the desire, he can apply for being an ambassador for the country. And he is officially listed on the website and in the books and in the materials and all of that. So it's not like, okay, you're ambassador.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
There is a chat message. It's good for someone to want to be an ambassador of Agora, but first you need to get your club running and see that it requires time and commitment. And after your club is stable, meaning that it runs without you being there every single time and every single meeting, then you have free time, and then you can apply for being an ambassador and promote Agora. For sure, we would love to have more ambassadors around everywhere, basically. Helen is constantly asking for more ambassadors in the UK.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One in Scotland, one in Ireland, one in Wales.
Yeah.
Okay, my last question. I'm sorry for asking so many.
No, it's okay. By all means, this is was the meeting.
One rule about Turkey is like, for you to start any organization like this, you need to register the organization.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So can I register in the name of Agora, or I'll register in the name of my own club?
Yeah, you should register the name of your own club.
My own club. Okay.
Exactly.
It's easier.
Yes. Well, I'm no one to doubt it, but a group of people meeting privately just to talk, does that require registration in Turkey?
Come again?
A group of people, friends that meet privately to talk, does that require registration in Turkey?
For that, I don't really know, but for you to have a group or a speaking conference like that, before you can go to a conference for
Yes, well, if you raise the visibility of your group and you start organizing conferences and raising funds, then yes, for sure. I mean, not only in Turkey but everywhere you will need registration probably, or the tax guys will come knocking at your door.
So Agora is helping people to be speakers, but it's not helping people to come under them, right?
It's not. I missed the last part. Sorry.
I said the main aim of Agora is helping people to be speakers, but not helping people to come under them.
Out of depth, you mean? Did I understand properly?
I said, I see the way I asked the question and the answers that is coming, that Agora is helping people to become speakers on their own, but not bringing people under them.
Yeah, well, Agora has several goals. One of them is speaking, but there are others. Maybe you joined a bit later. They are critical thinking, leadership, and debating. And I would say that public speaking and leadership are the main goals. So we are interested in training leaders that will be actively involved in their communities, doing community projects as well. It's not only about public speaking. And to answer a question that is lingering there about the benefits, it's really a huge benefit. Even as a member, I think the benefits of Agora are clear in the terms of your personal improvement. You could think that public speaking is useful only for speaking in public, but it's not so. You will notice that your own communication skills in private and in small groups have vastly improved. You will be more assertive, more clear. You will transmit your message much more efficiently, and you will be able to convince people much more easily. But for club leaders, there are many additional benefits because leading a volunteer organization is quite a challenge. You will learn a lot about leadership. You will learn a lot about working with people that might not necessarily always agree with you. You will learn how to debate, how to make compromises, and you will grow a lot as a person, for sure.
All right. So is there any materials that Agora can share with me so that I can start learning more about it?
Sure. After the meeting, I'll share the link to this recording, and I'll point everyone to the links of the online documentation, and you can start it, and we can take it from there, one step at a time.
All right. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, any other questions? Hi, Fred. From
Sandra,
Canada.
how are you doing?
Canada, it must be super early there.
It was 5:30, and you'd already started 5:30 a.m. So
Yeah, well, this meeting was organized mainly for the people in Africa and Middle East, and there will be others more appropriate for the US, for the American backgrounds.
I understand that, and I'm on the West Coast, so it's even earlier than many places. But I just
sorry.
I just wanted to mention that I did have a meeting with some people this past week, and they are discussing maybe opening up a club here.
Well,
Are there any other clubs in Canada that you know of? I think there might be one or two somewhere in Ontario, but that's about 4,000 kilometers away from where I am.
Yeah, that's about it. The US and the US and Canada have been especially difficult territories, and almost all the clubs there are operating, I don't know why, like under the radar for some reason. In the US, there are 3 official clubs, and I think 2 unofficial. And in Canada, there are 2 official, and I think 1 unofficial.
Okay, that was my question, but we did have a discussion last week, so we're looking for a couple of people to help organize and see what happens. So.
Great, that's great.
I just wanted to say hello. I'll see you in Lisbon.
For sure.
If you bring the hats.
Oh yeah, this is my trademark. This hat. That's why I've got it on. I got lots of hats, but this is the one. So I'll bring this hat for sure. And I'll see you there, Helen.
Fred, by the way, is one of the leaders of the youth program in Agora. He's, I would say, one of the main promoters. So it's a great honor to have him here. Yep.
I'm again with my question.
Yeah.
I want to know if there's any upcoming conference coming up by Agora so that I can attend and get personal experience from it.
There is one in Lisbon in 3 weeks, 21st, 22nd of September. By all means, come. if you can make it. It's quite a short notice for you, I guess. It was planned for quite a long time. The overall idea is to have one international convention every year, and it will be in a different continent if we can manage it. We want to follow the Olympic model.
I can come, but I don't hold Turkish passport, so I need a visa to come. And unless I get a visa, I need an invitation from the organization to
Sure,
apply
no
for
problem. No problem. We will provide book your place and we'll provide an invitation.
All right. So how can we talk about the invitation?
Send us a message, a private message on the group, on the Facebook group, on the Facebook page, or just write an email to info@agoraspeakers.org, and that's it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so unless we have any more questions, I think it's time enough to wrap it up. You see what's the usefulness of having a timer in the meetings. The meeting would have been much shorter if we had had a timer, but well, what can I say? So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for coming here. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you have learned. Any questions, ask them, go ahead. See you, Vincent, hi. And I hope you are all thrilled and want to start Agora clubs in your cities.
Well, let me thank you then for all the 16 who are still here, for all the info we got, and we hope to see you in Lisbon.
See you, everyone. Bye.
The same here.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
it was
you so
a very
much.
informative meeting.
See
Thank
you
you
in
very much.
Portugal.
Thank you.